Hello Primary 5, hope you are fine. Today we are going to talk about rounding decimals from page 24 to page 27 in the booklet. Rounding. To round decimal numbers we have two strategies, midpoint strategy and rounding rule strategy. Let's start with midpoint strategy. In this strategy we have to use the vertical number line. And we have only three numbers on this number line. Smaller number, and you have to write it down. Greater number, and you have to write it up. And finally, the midpoint, which at the middle of the number line. To find these numbers, we have some steps. Let's start. Here, in this question, I have 65.834. I need to round this number to the nearest whole. Okay, using midpoint strategy. Let's start. First, I need to find the smaller number and write it down on the number line. How can I find the smaller number? Okay, first, check. Here, we round to the nearest what? We round to the nearest whole. That means ones. I need the digit under ones. Okay, which digit under ones? It's 5. So take 5, take this digit and any digit else behind it inside the box, like this. Okay, now what I have to do, change any digit outside the box to zeros, like this. And this is the smaller number. So the smaller number is 65.30. Write it down like this. Okay, now I need to find the greater number. How can I find the greater number? Okay, back to the original number. I need to round to nearest whole. Which digit under ones? 5. Okay, it's like I'm gonna cross 5 and what just after 5? 6. So that's mean the greater number now is 66.30. You have to write it up like this. Okay, now we have to find the midpoint. How can I find the midpoint? Look at the smaller number. In the smaller number here, I have 65.30. Okay, change the first 0 after 5 to 5. How come? Here I have 65.000. The first 0 after 5, after the ones digit, change it to 5. So now it's 65.500 and this is the midpoint number. So the smaller number now is 65.30, the bigger 66.30, and the midpoint 65.500. Now, how can I round the number, the original number? Okay, search where the original number located on the number line. 65.834, it's up to the midpoint or down to the midpoint? Bigger than the midpoint or down, smaller than the midpoint? I have 834, it's bigger than 500, that means the original number up to the midpoint. When the original number up to the midpoint, that means my answer is the greater number, which is 66. What about if the original number down to the midpoint? If the original number smaller than the midpoint, that means you have to take the smaller one. But here in this question, the original number bigger than the midpoint, up to the midpoint, that means I have to take 66. Let's solve another example. Here I have 45.54. I need to round this number now to nearest tenth. Okay, which digit under tenth? It's 5. First, I need to find the smaller number. How can I find the smaller number? Search which digit under the required house. Tenth. So which digit under tenth? It's 5. So take 5 and anything behind it inside the box, like this. Then change any digit outside the box to 0. So I have only 4 outside the box, so change it to 0. And this is the smaller number, 45.50. Write it down. Okay, what about the bigger number? Again, look at the original number. Here, which digit under 10th? It's 5. So what did just after 5? 6. So that means the bigger number is 45.60, and you have to write it up. Okay, now I have the smaller number, the bigger number, and we have to find now the midpoint number. How can I find the midpoint number? Look at the smaller number. Okay, here I have 45.50. Change the first 0 after 10th to 5. So it's gonna be 5. So the midpoint number 45.55. So now I have the three numbers, the smaller number, which is 45.50, the bigger number, which is 45.60, and the midpoint number, which is 45.55. Okay, now search where is the original number located on the number line. I have 45.54. Where's this number on the number line? Up to the midpoint or down to the midpoint? Okay, look here, I have in the decimal part 54, but the midpoint is 55, so 54 is smaller than 55, so that means the original number down the midpoint. When the original number down the midpoint, take the smaller, which is 45.50. So that means my answer is 45.5, because we know that 0 at right in decimal part has no meaning. Letter C. Here we have 9.989. I need to round this number to nearest hundredths. Okay, here I need to find the smaller number. How can I find the smaller number? Okay, check which digit under hundredth house. Okay, it's 8, so take 8 and any digit behind it inside the box, like this. And any digit outside the box, change it to 0. And this is the smaller number. So the smaller number, I have to write it down on the number 9. Here I have 9.980. Okay, how can I find the greater number? Back to the original one and check again which digit under hundredth. It's 8, so ask yourself which digit just after 8? 9. So that means the greater number is 9.990. Okay, to find the midpoint, look at the smaller number down here. Okay, ask yourself where's the hundredth? It's 8, so the first 0 just after 8, change it to 5, and this is the midpoint. So the midpoint is 9.985. Okay, now search where is the original number, up to the midpoint or down to the midpoint. I have 9.989. 989 is bigger than 985. It's bigger than the midpoint. So that means the original number up to the midpoint. When the original number up to the midpoint, take the bigger number. So my answer is 9.99. Put the 0 at right in decimal part, has no meaning. Letter D. Here we have 0.2534. I need to round this number to nearest thousandths. Okay, which digit under thousandths? 3. So take 3 and any digit behind it inside the box, like this. And any digit outside the box, turn it to 0. And this is the smaller number. Write it down on the number line, like this. Okay, back to the original one to find the greater number. Here again, which digit under thousandths? It's 3. So that's mean, ask yourself, which digit is just after 3? 4. So that means the greater number is 0.2540. Okay, how can I find the midpoint? Look at the smaller number. Here, the smaller number, change the first digit, the first 0, after 3 to 5, like this. So the midpoint is 0.2540. 0.2535. Now search where is the original number. The original number located down to the midpoint.